Hey guys, starting tomorrow on Retro Wednesday, we're going to be taking a look at some of my absolute favorite games on the PlayStation Portable. And I thought it would be appropriate to do a little vlog just talking a little bit about the PSP and some of the games that we're going to be covering. There's quite a few. I'm not going to touch base on every single one. Just sort of going in order of some of the titles that I wanted to talk about. But first off, I want to reiterate something I've said quite a few times on this particular channel, that this platform, I think history, it's weird the way history remembers the PlayStation Portable. And I think it's a lot to do with the fact that it came out at a time when Nintendo it came out when the DS was just announced, and a lot of people thought that, you know, the PSP was going to trounce the DS and you know, it was going to be like this next huge thing. What's so funny is that outside of trouncing the DS, okay, it actually was an incredibly successful platform that a lot of people just don't remember well. Are you aware that this thing sold over 80 million units worldwide? Think of that. 80 million units. It makes it, like, I think it's on the top 5 highest selling platforms of all time. Maybe 6 or 7, something like that. Like, it's way up there. And I think the reason why sort of gaming fans look back and like, oh yeah, man, it got destroyed. Well, yeah, it sort of did. The DS sold over 100 million units. But 80 plus million units were sold on the PSP. And I think people just, I don't know, they don't realize that. Now, as a fan of both platforms, I will admit that I have quite a vast PlayStation Portable collection, and I do believe that the PSP is one of the greatest systems ever made. And I don't think people really appreciate that, because it was filled with a lot of ports and things like that, like of other games. And it took a while for it to really come into its own. Now, I've already talked a lot about some of the launch software. Oh, and by the way, this particular model, this is the PSP 3000. This was the last model that they released, and this is the one I play my PSP games on today. This is the one that easily connects to the television with the best graphics possible, or optimized graphics. It's one where you can install your games onto it. I have a 32 gigabyte card actually in this right now. And anyways, all this to say that it's a platform that I think people don't necessarily realize just how many phenomenal games were released on the platform, or the fact that games are still being made for the PlayStation Portable. In North America, the last game, most likely, the last release game is most likely going to be Class of Heroes 3. And the projected release date in North America is March 2017. 2017. This platform was released in 2005, I think it was. 2005, 2006, depending on the region, or it's 2004 or 2005. Whatever the case may be. I'm pretty sure this was released in 2005 in North America. But if not, it's 2006. Who cares? Whatever. The point being, 2017. So that's either 11 or 12 years after the North American debut of the platform. That's insane. Absolutely insane. If I still had Metal Gear Acid here, which I don't, I'd know for certain. I just look at the copyright. But that's insane. I mean, over a decade after the platform was released, it is still getting new games. And to be fair, that's going to be the last game. But that made me sort of sit back and say, you know, there are a lot of games that I've covered to highlight some of the things I really liked about the PSP. I've covered things like the Siphon Filter games, the Daxter game, well, Daxter, the, what were they called, Ready at Dawn games. I covered the High Impact games. I've covered, you know, quite a few different games. I've also thrown in a few obscure titles here and there. Mortal Porcupines, mentioned a couple. This is one he wants me to do. Nano Diver. I'm going to get to this, man. Don't worry about it. This is an obscure sort of Monster Hunter-ish game where you go inside the human body to fight giant monsters and stuff. This was exclusive to Japan. Excuse me, to Japan. So I'll get to this one soon enough. But anyways, the point being that I think I've covered a lot of the ones that I wanted to cover to highlight sort of like the AAA aspect of the PlayStation Portable. Now there are others. There's still the SOCOM games. I will most likely get to those in a little while. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do yet. There are these two bad boys right here that I will be taking care of. These are the two Grand Theft Auto games, Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories. These ones are definitely going to be tackled in the near future because these are two of the biggest games released on the platform. Now, something that I think happened to the PSP, that's one of the reasons why it's not remembered as fondly as I believe it really should be. This particular game, Liberty City Stories, sold a ridiculous amount of copies. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I know it's well over 1 million copies. Whereas this one went released, and it was not largely ignored, but the sales were not up to Liberty City Stories. And that doesn't make sense. As your install base gets larger, you would assume that this one would have sold more. And I think a lot of the reasons why that happened is because people gravitated away from the PSP after, like, say around 2009, something like that, 2010, people slowly started to gravitate away from the PlayStation Portable. And I think a lot of the reasons why the Vita wasn't as successful as people thought necessarily it could be was to do with that, was that a lot of people were already moving on from the PSP. If you recall, sales really dried up for this particular platform really quickly around the 2009-2010 period. But what I wanted to show you guys were just the amount of games that were actually released on the platform that were awesome. Some of them were PlayStation 2 ports or things like that, but not that were released here, that were released in Japan only and were brought here exclusively on the PlayStation Portable. Other ones were just amazing games made from the ground up for the PSP. So I'm not going to show you everything. I got a whole whackload of games here, but I just wanted to give you an idea, sort of a taste of what's to come. So I'm going to tackle, I'm going to finish off the Metal Gear series, and I'm going to do this a little bit later on. I want to take a little break right now, but I've got the digital graphic novel, I've got Portable Ops. I'm not going to cover this one. This is Portable Ops Plus, I think it was called. Yeah, Portable Ops Plus. I'm not going to cover this one because it was primarily multiplayer, if I remember right. It was just maps. I'll mention it in the review for Portable Ops and maybe show like, you know, a little snippet here and there. Here's the big one, Peace Walker. This is the game, man. If this is one of my top 3 games on the PlayStation Portable. Absolutely awesome game. Trying to figure out how I'm going to do this here. So yeah, okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to shift gears more towards role-playing games and the games that really defined what it meant to be a PlayStation Portable exclusive, or just to be a fan of the PSP. You really had to be a fan of traditional role-playing games and such games like that. So I'm going to start off with a couple, actually. I'm going to start off with one of my favorite games on the PlayStation Portable, which is Crimson Gem Saga. If you've never played this game, if you like traditional JRPGs, go buy this immediately. Don't wait for my review, which is tomorrow, by the way. Just go and play this immediately. It's such a good game. After that, I'm going to, I don't know the order, I haven't done it yet, but there's Hexus Force. This is a fully 3D traditional RPG that, again, was pretty much ignored by the masses. A really good one. We have Growlancer. This is, I think it's not a remake, but it's a port of Growlancer 4 on the PlayStation 2, I want to say, but I'm not entirely certain. I have all my notes and stuff. I'll have to take a look, but I'm pretty sure. And this one was, again, I think this was only released in North America on the PlayStation Portable. This is a great game, man. It's a great game. And what's cool is that when these games came out, if I look at the dates here, this one was 2010. And believe it or not, this one was 2012. Both these games have the install feature. Now, what's nice about the install feature, especially today for you guys, if you want to go out and buy some of these games, get your hands on a PSP 3000. Do whatever it takes to buy one. And you can get memory cards. You can get a 32 gigabyte memory card. Just get a little adapter. Get a micro SIM or a micro SD card. And no, it was a memory stick that this used. But you could get a micro card now and then just use the, it comes with like a little adapter, and you just put the adapter in and boom, 32 gigs, man. But what's nice is that you can install game data. And when you install game data, there's like no load times whatsoever. And with this particular model, the PSP 3000, I don't know if you can see it, but the side here is a little bit higher than this side. This side's flat and this one's got a little bump. It's because I bought the larger battery. And you can still buy these things, but you got to do it now before they're gone for good. And if you buy that battery pack, this thing lasts for hours and hours and hours with no load times on a disc-based platform. It's freaking awesome. And if you decide that you want to download your games, you need a PlayStation 3. I don't know. You might be able to do it with a PC, but I'm not sure. I know you can do it with a PlayStation 3. It just takes quite a while. But you can download your games, and then the battery lasts even longer because then you don't need the actual disc. Anyway, so I'm going to be covering those particular games. I'm going to tackle the Class of Heroes. Take a good look at that box art because it's going to be relevant when you see the review. One last shout out for Crimson Gem Saga. Seriously, I can't stress this enough. This is an amazing game. And you can't install data on this one. I'm just trying to see when it was actually released. 2009. So it was released in 2009. Brilliant game. Well worth picking up. I really hope you enjoyed the review of this. I love this game. So yeah, the Class of Heroes, both 1 and 2, I'm going to tackle. I'm going to tackle games like Riviera. I'm going to tackle the 3 Persona games that were released here. There's, Persona, Persona 2, and Persona 3. There's Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, which was awesome. One of the best games on the Vita, actually. And then I'm going to tackle some of the Square Enix games. I don't have everything here. I'm actually going back and forth to storage. I actually have to go and pick up a whole bunch of other games. But there's some games like Lord of Arcana. There's Kingdom Hearts. We've got, let's do it in order here. We've got Final Fantasy 2. And of course, the big one, Final Fantasy 4. I think it was called the Complete Collection, yeah. So I'm going to be tackling those particular games. Wah! A real shame that Final Fantasy 3 never made its way here on the Vita, but of course that was a big one on the DS when it was originally announced. I actually imported that. I actually have the import on the PSP as well. Then I'll be taking a look at Crisis Core. Of course, you don't need me to say anything about that. It's an awesome game. And then I'm going to jump ship into the Legend of Heroes saga. Now I have the whole collection of those. There's Legend of Heroes 1, 2, 3, which they're all out of whack. It's sort of like the old numbering of Final Fantasy where they're just all over the place. It's a mess. Then there's Trails in the Sky, then there's Trails in the Sky Second Chapter, which unfortunately was just a digital download only. And I say unfortunately because of what a pain in the ass it is to get it onto this. You have to download it first on your PS3 and then transfer it over to your PSP. Now thankfully that game's backwards compatible on the Vita, so I would recommend if you want to pick up those games, get the Trails series on the Vita. And in fact, if you really want to enjoy some excellent RPGs, get the whole damn series of Trails in the Sky, Trails in the Sky SC or Second Chapter, and then Trails of Cold Steel 1 and 2. Both, not both, all four of them can be played on the Vita, and I would really recommend you do that. There's something just awesome about playing an RPG, especially a traditional RPG on a portable. It's really, really great. And then I think I'm going to end it up with taking a look at something like this. Summon Night 5, as far as I know, and I might be wrong, but I think this was the final physical release. It's from 2015, the game, but it was actually released this year in 2016. By the time you guys see this video, I believe it's going to be 2017. So it was released last year. I'm recording this on like the 28th, I think it is. Let's see. Yeah, I'm recording this on the 28th right now. So I believe this was the last physical release. I don't even know how the hell Gaijin Works managed to do this. And they're trying to get Class of Heroes 3 made by March. But it's not looking really good. So it looks like this will be the last physical release, at least in North America. And this is a really good game. I quickly blasted through this. I can't get over a brand new UMD release in 2016. It's pretty amazing. Now, thanks to the likes of Limited Run Games and those guys, those guys and other guys like them, the Vita will probably be very similar to the PlayStation Portable in that we'll have a ridiculous amount of games released over the years on the Vita, probably all the way into like 2020, 2022, something like that. Because they're going to continue to support the platform until Sony no longer allows them to manufacture the discs, which is pretty much exactly what Gaijin Works did, where, you know, I don't know how they're going to make the UMDs in 2017, and I think that's the big problem right now with Victor Ireland basically saying that that's the issue. Right now, it's they just don't know how they're actually going to manufacture the little discs, which is a real shame because had they just gone into production right after this, I don't think it would have been such a big problem, but I don't know anything about that. So anyways, I'm also going to be tackling, I forgot to mention, attached with the Legend of Heroes is also going to be the other big Falcom series, which is the Ys series. So there are 4 Ys games, I think, that were released on the PSP. There was Ys 1 and 2, the Oath of whatever it's called. There's Ys 7, and there's Ys the Ark of Nepatapatapatapatapatapa. So yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to be covering, all of these different games over the next weeks and months and whatnot. But I was curious if there were other games that you wanted to see. I know there's Final Fantasy Tactics, which I don't know why I don't have here. And there's a few others, and I know there's some other obscure releases. Mortal Porcupine did a great job sending me a list, but I'm curious if there's anyone else, if there's other games you'd like to see on this platform. And once I'm done with all this, I think I'm going to most likely retire this bad boy, and we'll jump ship probably back to the PC Engine. There's still a lot of different games I want to talk about that. And then I think I'll be going back to like the Neo Geo or stuff, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, okay guys, that's pretty much it. So starting tomorrow, we're going to be taking a look at Crimson Gem Saga. And then we're going to move on to, like I said, a lot of different RPGs. I hope you guys enjoy this. A little warning before I take off here, and that is the fact that with role-playing games, they take hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to really unlock and get really into. So for the most part, a lot of the footage you're going to see is just going to be the very earliest portions of the game, just to give you sort of like a sampler, give you an idea of what you can expect for the whole adventure. That's going to be really true for games like Class of Heroes, where that game takes hours to get into, and I just want to give you a little taste of what it's about. If I had my old save file, which unfortunately I don't, I think it's in my card is in my original PlayStation Portable, unfortunately. This PSP was actually donated to me by Steven's good buddy Marc-André, or Mal as we call him. So I don't have my original whatever memory card, so that kind of sucks. But anyways, all that said, I hope you're looking forward to some of this content. There are just a wealth of a plethora of games that were released on the PlayStation Portable that I think far too people don't realize just the quality of some of these games. And then there's so many others. So send me a list, shoot down a comment, and let me know like if there's a particular game that you'd like me to cover on the PlayStation Portable, and I'll go ahead and do that before I mix things up and switch platforms. So that's about it, guys. So thanks a lot for watching. By the time this goes up, let's see here. It's probably going to be really close to the new year, so I guess I'll say Happy New Year, everybody. All the best for 2017. I wish you all the success and health possible. Alright guys, that's it. I hope you continue to enjoy the videos, and I'm going to work my hardest to keep going with our regular features. So thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment to let me know which games you'd like me to cover that I haven't discussed right now, and I'll do my best to cover those. Alright, see you all in the next video.